The flags at the United States Capitol and the White House tonight flying at half-staff, as are the flags at every public building in this country, at every U.S. embassy, consular office, military facility, naval station, and vessel around the world, as a mark of respect for the memory of Senator Edward M. Kennedy, who died overnight at his home in Hyannisport, Massachusetts, after a battle with brain cancer. Good evening from New York. To paraphrase William Butler Yeats, as Senator Kennedy himself did when he eulogized his nephew, John F. Kennedy Jr., 10 years ago, Ted Kennedy, alone among the Kennedy men of his generation, would live to comb gray hair. And we as a nation are better for it. Our fifth story on the countdown, Senator Kennedy's passing made no easier, even with the foreknowledge it would be coming, nor the praise it inspired. The death of Senator Kennedy leaving a gaping hole in the political life of this country and an equally large void in a political dynasty. That family issuing a statement reading in part, quote, "We've lost the irreplaceable center of our family and joyous light in our lives, but the inspiration of his faith, optimism, and perseverance will live on in our hearts forever. He loved this country and devoted his life to serving it. He always believed that our best days were still ahead, but it's hard to imagine any of them without him." The ninth and final child of Joseph and Rose Fitzgerald Kennedy, born on February 22, 1932, precisely on the 200th anniversary of the birth of George Washington. His brother Jack having written to his parents from boarding school asking to be the godfather and suggesting that they name the boy George Washington Kennedy. They granted Jack's first request, but they went instead with Edward Moore Kennedy for the name. Everyone would come to call him Teddy. 30 years later, Jack now in the White House, Teddy would win a special election to replace the senator appointed to fill the seat vacated by his brother. He held that seat for the nearly 47 years since. One of his former colleagues today grateful to have been given the chance to say goodbye.
And even though we have known this day was coming for some time now, we awaited it with no small amount of dread. Since Teddy's diagnosis last year, we've seen the courage with which he battled his illness. His fight has given us the opportunity we were denied when his brothers John and Robert were taken from us. The blessing of time to say thank you and goodbye.
A White House official tells the Boston Globe that President Obama will deliver a eulogy at Saturday's funeral in Boston. Other Senate colleagues, both former and present, today remembering a dear friend of many decades.
For decades to come, history will talk about his legislative accomplishments and the difference he made in public policy. For me, I lost my best friend in the Senate, just a great friend. Was here many occasions, right here in this river. And so it's been a long year and 3 months. So I'm saddened by it deeply. It's like losing a brother. Lost my sister about a month ago, and I feel this pain almost as much.
I sat with him on the Senate floor in the same aisle. I sat with him in the Judiciary Committee physically next to him. And I sat with him in the caucuses. And it was in that process, every day I was with him, and this is going to sound strange, but he restored my sense of idealism and my faith in the possibilities of what this country could do.
Senator Kennedy will be buried Saturday at Arlington National Cemetery near his two older brothers, approximately 95 feet south of his brother Robert's grave. Brian Williams, the anchor and managing editor of NBC Nightly News, joining us now from Hyannisport, the home of the Kennedy family compound on Cape Cod. Brian, thanks for being with us tonight.
Keith, thank you for having me.
Through it all, through the president's assassination, through the senator's assassination, through the death of JFK Jr., there has been Ted Kennedy. For nearly 5 decades in the Senate, there has been Ted Kennedy. Is it hard to imagine getting through even this own process, Senator Kennedy's own death, without him to buck everybody up?
So many people today here in this town, not being flip, said, in effect, who's going to give the eulogy? Who's going to be the glue? You know, Keith, that the role of family leader wasn't always thus. It wasn't always that way. It grew, it happened organically, it happened with a little help. I once had a member of the Kennedy family say to me, people think we have family meetings and councils, that there's structure, and it couldn't be more wrong. But that statement in the most recent years, as they kind of coalesced, the kind of agreement that Uncle Ted, as so many called him, was the guy, the patriarch, the word that's been tossed around so many times today. So yes, it is hard to imagine a crisis, a loss, without the crisis manager. Remember his role as they searched for the aircraft of John F. Kennedy Jr. not far from here.
The funeral arrangements are loosely set. He'll lie in repose at the Kennedy Library. There'll be the funeral mass in Boston. The burial will be late Saturday afternoon in Arlington near his brother's. Is there a sense at this point of what these few days ahead are going to be like in terms of tone, in terms of reaction?
I am guessing that there are touchstones, talismans that are represented by the various steps in this process. The church where he prayed for his daughter, Cara. The cemetery, as you mentioned, houses his two brothers. How perverse that a former president, a former senator, and now the third brother joined them. How perverse that is for one family to bear that burden, considering the two men he joins in Arlington were victims of violent deaths from assassins' bullets. So yes, I think you'll see something represented at every step, and the common person, the common citizen of the Commonwealth of Massachusetts, this is designed for them to come out, pay their respects, and be sad in public with other people who, if they didn't love Ted Kennedy, certainly knew his work and perhaps respected him during his day job.
With his letter last week, that was released last week to Governor Patrick of Massachusetts and the state lawmakers there about changing the possibility of an interim senator, an interim selection, an appointment to replace him before the special election in 5 months' time, there seem to be now reactions from the Boston and other newspapers in Massachusetts that Governor Patrick is attending to this and seems to have the support of the state legislature. Do we know where that stands, and is it sort of emblematic that even in his wake, in his absence after his death, Senator Kennedy seems to be affecting politics in his own state so significantly?
Well, first of all, forgive me. This is the hour for kids on bikes on summer vacation, and it's going to happen. And it's one of the things that makes Hyannisport great and at times noisy. But and I don't pretend to be an expert on the State House up here. I can hardly handle what's going on to the south in New York. But as it's been explained to me, a caretaker governor, the true meaning of both of those halves, taking care of the Commonwealth for a period of about 120 days. Someone with no designs on the office permanently, so that a special election may be held. And the letter, as you correctly pointed out to somebody last night, was written a while back. We just learned of it last week, a few days ago. Kind of classic New England, understated stoicism. I believe it's time the people of the Commonwealth start talking about this publicly, how we move on, how to select my successor.
Brian Williams of NBC Nightly News taking some time with us this evening. As always, my friend, great thanks.